What are my biggest questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2019 NFL season? Make sure to stay tuned and watch the whole entire video to find out. What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports and Max, you guys, with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my biggest questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2019 NFL season. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Upload NFL videos, NFL content daily. I also have a weekly live call-in show every Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern time when people call in and we just talk about random topics and things in the NFL. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of things like that. And also make sure to check out my social media pages. My Instagram is JTSports_. Make sure to check that out. The link to my Instagram page is down in the description down below. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. It's the same thing as my Instagram handle, JTSports_. My link to my Twitter will be down in the description down below. So my biggest questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2019 NFL season. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and these are just my biggest questions, my biggest concerns, and things that I'm going to be keeping tabs on as we approach the 2019 NFL season. Now, the first question that I have for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Ben Roethlisberger, he's getting up there in age, and last season he had 5,129 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completed 67% of his passes. It was one of the best seasons that he has had in his career passing the football. And Ben Roethlisberger, a lot of people feel that he's kind of regressing, and by what I mean regressing, he's not regressing bad, but he's regressing a little bit on the road. His play on the road the last couple of seasons has not been as good as his play when he's playing at home at Heinz Field. Now, I think this is going to be a big concern because the Pittsburgh Steelers this season have a lot of big games on the road this season. And one of those big road games is week 1 of the NFL season against the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. And we already know how hard it is to win at Foxborough. We already know that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a hard time beating the New England Patriots at New England. Last season, the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the New England Patriots, but it was at Heinz Field. Now you're going on the road to Foxborough, one of the toughest environments in the NFL to play in. Then they also have to travel and play the LA Chargers a few weeks after that at Los Angeles, which, I mean, LA last season, they didn't really have crazy home field attendance and home field advantage, but it's still a game on the road. So one of my biggest questions is going to be, how good is Big Ben going to be able to play, and then for the Pittsburgh Steelers to steal or win either one or two of these road games? And they have a couple of other tough road games, but I think the LA Chargers and the New England Patriots are probably going to be the toughest road games for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. And how is Big Ben going to be able to play on the road? That's going to be a big question that I'm going to be looking forward to finding out from the Pittsburgh Steelers and Big Ben Roethlisberger. My second question number 2 is, who will step up as the second wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster? Now, the two wide receivers that are competing for that starting wide 2 receiver spot is Dante Moncrief and James Washington. Now, Dante Moncrief, he played for the Jacksonville Jaguars last season, had 68 receiving yards, 688 receiving yards, 48 receptions, caught 3 touchdown passes. He could have did a lot better, but he was held back by Blake Bortles. And then plus Blake Bortles got benched near the end of the season, and Cody Kessler started a couple of games. So the quarterback situation was not ideal. Then we have second-year wide receiver James Washington, who struggled his rookie season. He had 217 receiving yards, 16 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And most rookie wide receivers struggle in their first season. So I'm not going to use that against James Washington. But either one of these guys is going to be the starting number 2 wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is a big part of how good the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be this year is going to be the production that they're going to be able to get from that number 2 wide receiver position, because as we already know, Antonio Brown, he's gone. We traded him to the Oakland Raiders. Now Juju Smith-Schuster, he has to step up as that number 1 wide receiver. And when he's getting double teamed, either Dante Moncrief or James Washington are going to be the guy who's going to have to be able to make a lot of plays during that stretch when Juju Smith-Schuster is getting a double team and drawing a lot of attention. It's going to be up to those 2 guys to be able to make plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the passing game. The question is, who is that going to be? Who's going to be the starter? Is it going to be Dante Moncrief, or if it's going to be James Washington? Me, I prefer Dante Moncrief. I think he's a bigger threat because of what he's able to do on the field, because of his size. He has good size. He's like 6'2", 215 pounds, and he also has pretty good speed for his size as well. So a guy that big, that fast, is a great deep threat and a good target for Big Ben Roethlisberger to throw to on those big, deep passing plays like we know Pittsburgh likes to do. They like to push the ball down the field vertically, and Dante Moncrief, being as big as he is and the size that he has, gives Big Ben a big, deep target. But James Washington, he's a lot faster than Dante Moncrief as well. So both of these guys have positives and negatives about them. But whoever's going to be starting is going to have a big part for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense this season. My third question is the secondary. Now, the secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers last season, it was basically up and down. At the beginning of the season, they struggled. But a big reason why they struggled was because they took a long time to bench Artie Burns. Artie Burns, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and you watched every single Pittsburgh Steelers game at the start of the season like I did, Artie Burns was a touchdown machine. This guy was allowing touchdowns left and right. He was god-awful. And I don't think we should cut Artie Burns. I think he would be better if we moved him at safety. And he might not even be better at safety, but I just want to see what he can do at safety at the safety position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the secondary last season, it was up and down. But once Artie Burns got benched, the secondary started playing a lot better. And the guy who I really liked it a lot was Cody Sensabaugh. According to Pro Football Focus, he was top 5 in receiving yards allowed. And he didn't really allow a lot of receiving yards. So he's no longer on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a free agent. Now, we could bring him back, but I think Cody Sensabaugh was very solid for the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. So, according to IrelandFootball.com, these guys, they do the depth charts and they project the depth charts. So, the projected starters that they had, Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson at the 2 cornerback positions, and then at slot cornerback we had Mike Hilton. I think Steven Nelson was one of the biggest underrated free agent signings in all of the offseason, because Steven Nelson, according to Pro Football Focus, he was above average, had a grade of over 70, which means he was solid for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think personally he was the best cornerback on the roster, and the Kansas City Chiefs had an absolutely terrible secondary last season. So Steven Nelson is going to improve the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary by a lot, because now the Pittsburgh Steelers have a reliable second cornerback on the opposite side of Joe Hayden. So now you have Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson. I think that's going to be a pretty solid cornerback duo for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into 2019. Then you have Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton was a very underrated part of that Pittsburgh Steelers defense last season, because I think Mike Hilton played very, very well. And he exceeded my expectations for how well he played last season. He played very, very well last season. So that cornerback position, I don't really have any concerns. Safety, Sean Davis, I trust Sean Davis. But now we get the strong safety. Second year safety, Terrell Edmonds. Now, last season, I don't really know how I felt about Terrell Edmonds. He had some okay performances. He had some not okay performances. So he was up and down. He wasn't really consistent last season, but he was a rookie. But now going into his second season now, how is he going to be able to piece together good week after week performances now? Because now the Pittsburgh Steelers, we need him to be more consistent. And if he's able to be more consistent, then that's going to help this Pittsburgh Steelers secondary out a lot. But if he's not able to, and he struggles a lot, I suggest giving Marcus Allen a little bit more playing time, because Marcus Allen, he's a big physical safety. He's also a very good tackler, and I really want to see Marcus Allen get a lot more opportunities on the field than what he got last season if Terrell Edmonds starts struggling. Now, I know some fans might be like, if he struggles, you got to keep him in there. You got to let him learn. But at what cost? At what cost is it keeping a guy like Terrell Edmonds if he does struggle next season and he's end up costing us games? Then you have to look up at giving a guy like Marcus Allen a little bit more playing time. But Marcus Allen, he's a very good tackler, and he's very big. Gets the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot of size in that secondary. My fourth biggest question is Devin Bush. Now, according to what I was reading, Devin Bush did phenomenal at OTAs and minicamp for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of Pittsburgh Steelers players and coaches said that he's fast, quick, and he also lined up covering halfbacks and tight ends. That has been the Pittsburgh Steelers' Achilles heel for the last couple of seasons, has been the coverage from that linebacker position. Now we have a guy like a Devin Bush who's going to be able to cover those tight ends and be able to cover those halfbacks that are very versatile, guys like Alvin Kamara's and the Chris McCaffreys of the world. We got a guy like Devin Bush who could line up and match up with these guys one-on-one. So how good is he going to be in his rookie season for the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's one of my biggest questions. Now, my last question, the fifth question that I have is, will Chris Boswell be able to bounce back? Because last season was very disappointing for Chris Boswell. This was a guy who the previous season went to the Pro Bowl, who was arguably one of the best kickers in the NFL and got a contract extension. And last season, Pittsburgh Steelers had to threaten to bring in another kicker just to push Chris Boswell a little bit more. So is Chris Boswell going to be able to bounce back and go back into his 2017 form, his Pro Bowl caliber form, or is he going to struggle again? In 2018, he missed 6 field goals and missed 5 extra points. So is he going to be able to bounce back? And I think that's going to be key, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be playing in a lot of tight games. You got Cleveland. Cleveland isn't a team anymore that you look at and be like, oh, that's an easy W anymore. This Cleveland Browns team, they're legit. Then you got Seattle, you got the 49ers, you got the Rams, you got the Colts, you got the Patriots, you got the Ravens. All 7 of those games could be games that potentially come down to the wire, that we're going to need Chris Boswell to win those games, because in those games, I think those games are going to be really tight, and the extra point or a field goal could be the difference in those games. So Chris Boswell, is he going to be able to bounce back? Those are my 5 biggest questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2019 NFL season. Now, if you like this video and want to see more of these videos, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Also, comment your thoughts about it down in the comment section down below. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like my social media pages, my Instagram and my Twitter. Link to those down in the description down below. And thanks for watching.